The leather chair in the corner office had witnessed thousands of decisions that moved markets and changed lives, but tonight it would bear witness to something far more profound, a test that would shatter every assumption about worth, dignity, and what it truly means to see another human being. Victoria Chen hadn't slept properly in weeks. The weight of running a tech empire worth $47 billion pressed down on her shoulders like an invisible anchor, dragging her through 16-hour days and sleepless nights. At 42, she was one of the youngest self-made female billionaires in America, celebrated on magazine covers and keynote stages. But lately she'd been feeling something she couldn't quite name, a hollowness that no amount of success seemed to fill. It was 11:47 p.m. when she decided to stay late again, reviewing acquisition proposals that could wait until morning, but somehow felt urgent in the grip of her insomnia. The building had emptied hours ago, leaving only the hum of servers and the distant whoosh of the ventilation system. And the night cleaning crew, of course. She barely noticed them most evenings, these invisible workers who kept her gleaming headquarters spotless. But tonight was different. Tonight, an unsettling conversation with her sister echoed in her mind. "You've forgotten what it's like to be human, Vic," Emma had said over their brief lunch. "When's the last time you actually saw the people around? You? Not your executives or board members? The real people who make your world function?" The words had stung because they were true. Somewhere between her first startup and her current empire, Victoria had stopped seeing individuals and started seeing functions. The barista who made her coffee was just a caffeine delivery system. Her driver was merely transportation. And the cleaning staff? They were practically invisible. She was spiraling into these uncomfortable thoughts when she heard the door to her office click open. Through half-closed eyes, Victoria watched a man in a gray uniform push a cleaning cart into her office. She'd meant to acknowledge him, but something stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was her sister's challenge still ringing in her ears. Instead of sitting up, she let her head loll to the side, her breathing slow and steady, pretending to be asleep. The janitor froze when he saw her. He was older, perhaps in his 60s, with silver hair and deep lines etched around his eyes, the kind that spoke of long years and hard work. For a moment he stood perfectly still, clearly debating whether to back out quietly or proceed with his work. Then, with movements so careful they seemed choreographed, he began to clean. Victoria watched through barely parted eyelids as he emptied her trash bin with excruciating slowness, making sure the bag didn't rustle. He wiped down her conference table using a cloth instead of the usual spray bottle, avoiding any sound that might disturb her. Every action was executed with a tenderness that seemed absurd for someone cleaning an office. When he reached her desk, he paused. Victoria's laptop was still open, its screen casting a blue glow across scattered papers. The janitor looked at her sleeping form, then at the computer, then back at her. Slowly, ever so slowly, he reached out and closed the laptop. Not all the way, she noticed, just enough to dim the harsh light without making the clicking sound of a complete closure. But it was what happened next that made Victoria's throat tighten. The janitor noticed her blazer had slipped off the back of her chair onto the floor. He picked it up with both hands, treating the expensive fabric with the same reverence someone might handle a sacred text. He folded it carefully and placed it on the chair beside her. Then he did something that made Victoria's breath catch. He pulled a small, worn blanket from the bottom shelf of his cleaning cart and gently draped it over her shoulders. The blanket was old, thin, and had clearly seen better days. It smelled faintly of lavender detergent. And in that moment, Victoria realized this was likely his own blanket, something he kept for his own comfort during long night shifts in the cold, over-air-conditioned building. "Sleep well, ma'am," he whispered so softly she almost didn't hear it. "You work too hard." He finished cleaning the rest of the office in near silence, his movements fluid and practiced. Before leaving, he adjusted the thermostat, turning up the temperature a few degrees, and dimmed the overhead lights she'd left blazing. Then he quietly wheeled his cart out, clicking the door shut with barely a sound. Victoria sat frozen, the thin blanket still draped over her shoulders, tears streaming silently down her face. In her entire adult life, through hostile takeovers, impossible deadlines, and devastating betrayals, she couldn't remember the last time someone had shown her such simple, uncomplicated kindness. Not kindness designed to gain favor or curry influence, but kindness for its own sake. Kindness extended to someone he thought was unconscious, someone who would never even know about his gesture. She looked at the blanket, threadbare and humble, and thought about the cashmere throw draped across her living room couch at home, unused and decorative, probably worth more than this man earned in a month. The contrast felt like an indictment. For the next hour, Victoria sat in her office, wrapped in that borrowed blanket, her laptop forgotten. She pulled up the employment records for her night cleaning staff, something she'd never thought to do in 8 years of occupying this office. His name was Robert Martinez, 63 years old, 15 years with the cleaning company that contracted with her building, no disciplinary actions, perfect attendance. And that was it. That was the sum total of what her system knew about. A man who had just shown her more genuine humanity than she'd experienced in years. When Monday morning came, Victoria did something unprecedented. She canceled her 8 a.m. meeting with investors from Singapore and asked her assistant to locate Robert Martinez and bring him to her office. The assistant's confusion was palpable but unquestioned. Robert arrived looking terrified, surely convinced he was about to be fired. Victoria gestured to the chair across from her desk, the same chair where her blazer had rested that night, and asked him to sit. He perched on the edge, hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Mr. Martinez," Victoria began, and saw him flinch at the formality. She took a breath and started again. "Robert, Friday night, you came to clean my office. I was here, and you thought I was asleep." The color drained from his face. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry if I disturbed you. I tried to be as quiet as—" "You gave me your blanket," Victoria interrupted, her voice cracking slightly. "You gave me your own blanket and turned up the heat for me." Robert looked down at his hands. "You looked cold, ma'am, and tired, very tired." "Why?" The question came out almost as a whisper. "You didn't know if I'd ever even realize you'd done it. Why would you do that?" He looked up at her then, his brown eyes clear and direct. "Because kindness doesn't need an audience, Ms. Chen. My mother used to tell me that how you treat people when no one's watching, that's who you really are. You work hard for a lot of people. I just thought, maybe someone should take care of you too, even if just for a moment." Something broke open in Victoria's chest. Here was a man who earned maybe $30,000 a year cleaning up after people who earned $30,000 a day, and he possessed a wealth of spirit that her billions couldn't buy. "I want to offer you a job," she said. "In my company. A real position with benefits, training, opportunities for advancement." But Robert was already shaking his head gently. "That's very kind, Ms. Chen, but I'm happy with what I do. I take pride in it. Not everyone needs to climb the ladder to matter. Some of us are content being the ones who keep the ladder steady." His words landed like a revelation. She'd spent decades climbing, assuming everyone wanted what she wanted, valued what she valued. But here was someone who'd found meaning in service, who measured wealth not in dollars, but in moments of human connection. "Then let me do something else," Victoria said, her mind racing. "Your company, they contract with us. What if we changed that? What if we brought the cleaning staff in-house, gave them better wages, health care, retirement plans? Not just here, but across all our offices?" For the first time, Robert smiled. "That would change a lot of lives, ma'am." "And will you help me do it right?" Victoria asked. "Will you help me see the things I've been too blind to notice?" Over the following months, Victoria did exactly what she'd promised. The cleaning staff across all her company's locations were brought on as direct employees with full benefits. But more than that, She instituted something she called Shadow Days, a program where executives, herself included, spent time working alongside every level of employee, from security guards to mailroom clerks to, yes, janitors. The thin lavender-scented blanket now hung framed on her office wall, a reminder more valuable than any award or achievement certificate. Beside it was a photo, Victoria and Robert, both wearing cleaning company uniforms, both smiling, taken on her first shadow day. Her sister Emma visited the office one afternoon and stopped in front of the display. "What's this about?" Victoria touched the frame gently. "It's about remembering that the most valuable things in life can't be acquired or achieved. They can only be received, usually from the people we've been taught not to see." And, Emma prompted, sensing there was more. "And it's about learning that real wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by whether you notice, really notice, the humanity in everyone you meet. A janitor taught me that. A man who gave me his blanket taught me what all my business degrees couldn't. That kindness, offered without expectation or audience, is the purest form of leadership there is." That evening, as Victoria prepared to leave the office at a reasonable hour for once, she saw Robert finishing his rounds. She'd kept the same late schedule enough times to cross paths with him regularly now. He waved and she waved back, two people who'd found an unexpected friendship built on a moment of invisible kindness. "Good night." "Robert." "Good night, Ms. Chen. Stay warm." She pulled her coat tighter and smiled. She was warm. Warmer than she'd been in years, because she'd finally learned to see.